Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We got AJ, we got Biggie, we got Rudo coming to you live on a Monday. You know, figured it was time to do this show. I know a lot of people that get into hockey through things like the NHL video game, other things like that often use player archetypes as a good beginner block for learning kind of stylistic hockey and how certain players execute things. So I wanted to talk about player archetypes. One, how do you define them? Two, are they really meaningful in any way? Three, how do players fit into these types of categories, both the Avalanche themselves, but also some of the best players in each category as we define them. So I think it'll be an interesting show. I think it's a good way to get new fans into the sport as well, because when you throw hockey at someone, there is a whole lot going on at one time. It's not a sport like baseball where it's like, all right, a thing happens, I can explain that to a new fan, and then the next thing happens piece by piece. And in hockey, there's like 8 things going on all the time, always, forever. So, which is part of why the sport is awesome, but also a very complicated way to get into this. But we can dive in on some of these archetypes. Let me ask you guys, what do you think is the most common archetype of player in the NHL?
Bad.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's the most common player. I know Eric is always like, the NHL's hard. I'm telling you, it's hard. But there's a couple of guys in the NHL that make it look really, really easy. And then compared to those guys, everybody else just looks bad.
Like, you looking for name, like words, like power forward or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, let's start with words. We'll get to the names later.
No, of course, names. I meant words. You know, my French took over there. I think for me, it's power forward is right there. You know what I mean? Like right away. I think that's the one I look forward to. You know what I mean? Like for me, I think, goal scorers could be for AJ, you know what I mean? Like, or something like, you know what I mean? Like goal scorer, right? Let's think of one for Rudo, a 200-foot player. Would that be 3 archetypes right there? You know what I mean?
Ain't no way I'm playing defense, but
no,
yeah,
I
sure.
know. Okay, I'll take the 2. You take the power forward. I'll take the 200-foot player or whatever. So things like words like that, correct?
Yes, correct.
I mean, this version of the NHL, most common, it might be offensive defensemen, right? Teams have really leaned hard into guys that have puck skill. And even though the Cody Ceci still gets signed everywhere Ken Holland goes, defensive defensemen are at this point much harder to find. You look at where the Avalanche are.
Yeah, almost at a premium, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Cody Ceci in part fetched a first-round pick last season, and then got a multi-year deal. Ryan Lindgren, same thing. And there's a good argument to make that both of those guys are not very good.
Yeah, definitely could make that argument. I guess to define the most common, we have to talk about how granular we want to get with an archetype, because everyone can come in and say, all right, power forward's an archetype, sure. I think sniper is one people know quite well. Playmaker is one people know quite well. On the defensive side, you have offensive and defensive defenseman, or a two-way defenseman if they go both. But do we want to lump bottom six together? Do we want to just call grinder an archetype, or do we want to get more specific than that and talk about a penalty kill specialist or a face-off guy? How detailed do we want to make these archetypes?
I mean, if I'm making NHL 26, I'd want to make them pretty detailed for the purposes of the next 55 minutes. I don't think we need to get that deep into it.
Sure.
I like that answer.
Okay.
I think grinder, and then you bring a specific, like I always say, you got to bring something to the nest, right? You got to bring something. If you're just, you got to be excellent at one thing. Sometimes it's face-offs, like you just said. Sometimes it's, but I think they all go in the same ones. You know, it's just grinder. I like that word. You know, the meat grinder. I like it.
All right. So I have a couple of archetypes that I think stand out that are definitely archetypes. We can talk about those and then we can work into some of the other ones. I think the first one that comes to everyone's mind is usually power forward, like you were saying, E. But what, especially in the modern NHL, what actually quantifies a power forward? Because it's really, really, really hard to be a good one. A lot of players get the power forward tag, and then do they actually play like a power forward, or at least what I would consider a power forward? Maybe not. So what is like the bar to be a real power forward in the NHL? What type of skills do you need, and what type of things do you need to be doing?
I think just on the Avs, there's a pretty clear delineation for me, because a lot of people like to pretend that Val Nichushkin's a power forward just because he's big, but he doesn't really play with that kind of like power, right? Like, he hunts pucks, he's good along the wall, but he's not a very physical player. And then you have Gabe Landeskog, who plays with plenty of physicality, plenty of power. He does all the same things that Nichushkin does, but he does it with a lot more of a physical presence. And I think that that's probably the difference for me, is that you have to have a real level of physicality, and that you impose your will upon opposing players on a regular basis. Not like, oh, hey, like, Val Nichushkin got into one fight that one time and he had no idea what he was doing. You know, like, that's not going to be it with me. But you need to have. I don't even think that you necessarily need to be big to do it. You just need to play with power. You look at Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon's not a very big guy.
He plays like a power forward more often
Right.
than people give him credit for. I really do believe that.
He plays with plenty of power. There's a meanness to his game, and to his teammates and to opponents. So, you know, there's that I think it's just a really like important distinction of, you have to Mikko Rantanen, big, didn't play with power. Was not a power forward. Martin Necas, big, not a power forward. So I don't necessarily think size plays into it for me, but you have to have a level of physicality. You have to get into it. You have to get into the mix.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think, I mean, that's the word I'm looking for, is not this one, but I'll use it. I think you got to be mean. You do. For me, you have to be mean, because that's how you create your space. You have to be tough. When I say tough, I'm not talking about the old days of fighting. That's not what I'm saying. But you got to be tough. You got to be able to stand your ground. You got to be able to stand up for yourself. Create room in front of the net. You know, Matthew Kachuk, for example. You know what I mean? Just kind of create room in front of the net. You're not going to get denied, you know, access to where you're trying to be. And you could be 4'2". It doesn't matter. I agree with you. You don't have to be 8 feet tall. So there's a lot of guys that play that tough game, and they're not the biggest. But I think it's more like, I think you have to have some sort of a mean streak in there, because it, you know, doesn't go hand in hand in my book. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of what adds to, like again, we'll get into names, but you know, Tom Wilson, you got to be mean. You got to have that mean streak in my book. You know, McKinnon's got that mean streak. we're talking about a skill guy, but MacKinnon's got, you're right, that mean streak, and that I would add that to what you were saying.
Yeah, I think there's two things that stand out specifically. You were just touching on. Number one thing I want to see a power forward do: win ice net front. You've got to be able to physically control space with your body net front, whether that's to set up tips like a Gabe Landeskog, or even if it's just holding position and boxing guys out for rebound opportunities and things like that. That is absolutely the top thing. The other thing I really like to see in power forwards, though, is puck protection ability with your body. Like if you're a guy who's going to drive the net with the puck, I want you to be able to go through someone and not chip chop skill dangle a guy. I mean, put your head down and go through a guy.
Yeah.
Those are the two things I see there. Obviously you need physicality. Obviously you need other parts to your game. I'm sure you can talk to this for hours on end, especially if you're a winger type. You better be able to win board battles.
That's where guys make a power forward makes their living in two places, right? You just said it in front of the net. That's his prime real estate. That's where Val does a good job, especially like, for example, on the power play, right? You gotta gain your ground a little bit. But I think board battles is where your game is if you're a power forward. You know what I mean? Because people always say you got to be able to get to the middle of the ice. Yeah, no, that for me, the middle of the ice is more like, think of it as a wide receiver in football or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you have skill and they're not afraid to go in the middle. But for me, the board is, listen, it's not fun to get absolutely smacked into the boards. Like, it's always more spectacular at center ice to get popped and, people fly. Think of, was it Orlov? They got Maddie back then, Duchesne, and, the Maddie made it flip. Yeah. It's so spectacular. But, if you ask Maddie right here, he'd tell you, like, that didn't hurt at all. Like, you know what? It doesn't. But I'll tell you one thing, those boards and those glass and, you get stamped there and sometimes it looks like nothing. And then you see the guy going to the bench, right? And he's like, oh, and then he's gone down the hallway and he's done. He's got a separated shoulder. He's got a, whatever it is that you want to get, a concussion or, So for me, you got to be an absolute beast to win the battles on the boards because there's a certain way to protect yourself. Other while you're going at it and trying to get possession and try to get the territorial, like, ground battle, you want to call that. So yeah, you got to be able to win the battles on the walls, and then you got to be able to own the walls. As a very important point, Rudo, right there. I agree with you. And some guys are good at it, and some guys are absolutely dog poo poo at it. They just are. You know what I mean? And that's why some guys are not very good and they're big and then people argue they're not a power forward, they're soft. Well, a lot of times because they don't win, they don't even engage in those board battles, they don't even show up around there because they're so scared. It's not fun.
Anthony Mantha.
Yeah, not a power forward at all.
I said Anthony Mantha.
There you go. Yeah, not a power forward. Agree.
So you already mentioned Landeskog, you kind of talked about intrusion. Let me throw you a couple of other names. Would you consider in the power forward category for the Avs? One, Artturi Lehkonen.
No.
Okay. I would agree. And then I guess that's really the only other one that I would consider in that category, or even to have a look at in the top 6, certainly. When you start talking about some of these other guys, like a Logan O'Connor, they get quantified in different ways because the offense isn't going to be productive enough to really fall into a category like a power forward.
Yeah, so, like just because you hit people, like Parker Kelly hits people a lot, right? Not a guy that I would ever consider a power forward. Not somebody that I think is imposing his will on the game like that, is not leading, with his chest out. Not that kind of guy, but your classic, like, checking guy.
Let me ask you one more guy, and to be clear, these are generalizations. A lot of players are going to blend aspects of different categories together, particularly the higher up you go. Obviously, someone like a Cale Makar or Nathan MacKinnon kind of transcends archetypes and does a lot of different stuff. So let me ask you Brock Nelson, because I know he's going to appear on our next category, but Do you think he has power forward elements?
Yeah, I don't know, man. All the years that I've watched him, I don't think I've ever thought of him that way. He's not a really overly physical guy. He's big. He uses his size effectively, kind of the way that Nichushkin does, where, he understands leverage and he just doesn't really play with like we've said this word 1,000 times already, but he doesn't really play with power.
Hard to be a power forward when you don't play with power.
Yeah.
I'll wait to give you mine.
Cool. We do need to take our first break of the show, so let's make sure we jump over and get that done as we're talking archetypes today. But I don't know. If you want to power up like Gabe Landeskog, I can't get there. I can't get there with this transition. What I can do is direct you to Cale Mortgage, especially if you're a business owner with good credit and plenty of cash on hand. It should be easy to get a loan, an investment property, and more. With Cale, it finally is. You can use their business purpose DSCR loan programs to use the property's rental income to get you approved and collecting those rent checks fast. DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio, which basically means if the rent covers or almost covers the mortgage, chances are Cale can get you funded without all the typical frustration and red tape. So head to cakehome.com. It was built by investors just like you for investors just like you. Of course, you can also call 1-888-EAT-CAKE. If you're a savvy, growth-minded entrepreneur who wants to use other people's rent money to grow your real estate legacy, head to cakehome.com or the link down in the description of this video today for some of the sweetest deals available anywhere with a process that's, well, a piece of cake. Call 1-800-888-EAT-CAKE right now. Again, 1-800-888-EAT-CAKE or go to cakehome.com. Cale Mortgage Corporation, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1734623, licensed in Colorado by the Division of Real Estate. Of course, terms and conditions apply. And once you've set yourself up with Cale Mortgage, make sure you're also checking out the Chicken and Pickle for some delicious, good food and fun when you can jump on the pickleball court. Chicken and Pickle offers indoor and outdoor pickleball courts. They even got a Sunday brunch. If you're into brunch, like this podcast very much is, brunch is kind of our thing. I'm just saying. Breakfast food at any time of the day is my jam. You can gather on there more than 50 indoor and outdoor TVs if you want to hang out and watch some sports as well. It's the backyard you'll never want to leave. So if you love pickleball and yard games, enjoy some friendly competition. They also have things like bags you can play. Cornhole, is that what we call it? Yeah, I guess we call it cornhole out here. Jump out there, have some fun. They also have giant Jenga, battleship, and more. Whatever it is, even if you have questionable pickleball skills, your ability to eat is undefeated. Chicken Pickle is the place for you. Go check them out. Swing by their wood-fired rotisserie chicken, pulled pork, and grass-fed beef sandwiches, as well as salad, hand-cut fries, and more. Again, head to chickenandpickle.com to plan your visit today, as family-friendly fun awaits at the Chicken and Pickle. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Do you want to wrap up the power forward conversation?
Yeah, like for me, I'm going to go very simple. I saw this guy, World Juniors, Halifax. Man, I don't remember what year. Now he's the greatest goal scorer in the history of the National Hockey League. The grade 8 Alex Ovechkin. For me, that's a power forward. Like he can steamroll you right through the fifth row, right? You know what I mean? And he can play the game, and I like
early
that.
in his career, yeah.
You are, but still this year. I mean, he's probably close to a few hundred hits this year. Like he's still. I mean, this guy's like what, ancient, and he's still hitting, and he's still dirty, and he's still like he gets mad. But I'm saying over the years, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't just have to be like. You don't have to be a 50 goal scorer. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, but he plays with a mean streak. And then for me, the ultimate guy, and that's why he's on Team Canada's orientation camp, and people try to emulate his game, and whether you like him or not, for me, Tom Wilson is the ultimate power forward. You know what I mean? Like he can whether you like him or not, he can score goals. He can play with first liners or the greatest goal scorer of all time, Alex Ovechkin. That's a power forward to me. Use your size, use your mean streak, use your skill, because he does have skill, and people tend to forget that he can play. And at the end of the day, yeah, he's crossed the line more often than not, you know what I mean? But he had to learn how to cross the line a little bit. Sorry, how not to cross the line. Um, if you never hit a guy, you'll never be in trouble because you just never put yourself out there for that stuff. You know what I mean? And there's some guys that they have to, Parker Kelly's or Steinberg, for example, like small example. If you're never hitting a guy, well, first of all, you'll never play in the National Hockey League, because you're just not there yet. I mean, you have to find that nest. But if you put yourself out there, you have to learn where that line is. And I think over the last few little bit, Wilson has kind of, you know, learned to be a little bit better than what he did before, which and I'm not condoning what he did wrong or right. It doesn't, that's not what I'm saying. But that's a power forward to me. You know what I mean? And I don't think the Avalanche have that. I don't think most teams have that. But, I think a poor man Wilson would be Brady Kachuk as well. Brady, 'cause he's got that mean streak, and you know what I mean. And you're like, oh, you don't know what you're gonna get, because there's again, I love Val Matushkin. You guys know that. That's not what I'm saying. But when you're lining up against him, it's not, I better keep my head up. It's more, I'm gonna have to all battle this guy because he's always in the way in the right position and uses arms as tentacles, and you know what I mean. Where you play Wilson and Kachuk, and you're like, okay. Okay, I better be worried here because I don't know what's going to happen. So it just kind of brings a different dimension to your game. But I don't think there's
Yeah.
that many of the true power forwards.
Tom Wilson suplexed the entire Rangers organization into an identity crisis that hasn't finished.
It's
The
true.
Rangers
You're right.
Like,
fell apart. Yeah.
yeah,
You're right.
like they're still going through that crash out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Tom Wilson I think is like the ultimate back in the day
Yeah.
Todd Bertuzzi, as much as we all have our feelings
Oh,
about
sure. Yeah.
everything.
It's
Todd Bertuzzi was that guy for a long time. Ryan Leonard, funny enough, we're talking about Alex Ovechkin and Tom Wilson. Ryan Leonard's the next. So
Yeah.
yeah.
fun.
We'll see.
Washington has a type.
A power forward does play. They walk that line, right? Sometimes they
Yeah,
cross it. No one should ever cross the level Todd Bertuzzi did, but
No.
sometimes power forwards do cross that line where maybe they shouldn't.
And then just add like what we're talking about too. One of the guys is, we just had him in the playoffs again. Is Avs fans tend to hate him. Is Jamie Benn in his prime, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Jamie, right? I mean that's a
Yeah.
power forward to me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like confuses. And again, I don't condone fighting. That I'm not saying that, but sometimes it does buy you space. It does buy you. It does, like, because people are like, oh, whoa, this guy can. This guy can. Ooh, whoa, okay, this guy can go. So I don't know. I mean, just to finish that power forward one, I think those are good names. Corey Perry at a certain extent for a while too.
Mm.
Yep. It's a difficult to be a power forward. So let's move
it's not fun.
Let's move to maybe a flashier player, but one that I'm interested on how you define in a sniper, because look, I think a lot of people will very quickly say sniper. Oh, well, he's a goal scorer. Okay. Yeah. But Nathan MacKinnon has a 50-goal season. I don't think anyone would consider him a sniper. If you look at someone like a Joe Pavelski, would score 30 goals every year. No one's going to call him a sniper. He's tipping in pucks.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Ovechkin, who obviously crosses over a little bit, arguably the greatest goal scorer of all time. You have Austin Matthews, who's the best goal scorer of the next generation, or whatever you want to call it. These are guys that are easily fit into the sniper category, but where's the line? What is the quantifier that makes you a sniper versus a guy who just scores some goals? Like Ross Colton? Is Ross Colton the sniper? Probably not. Do the Avs even really have a sniper?
No. The closest thing that they would have would be Brock Nelson, and still,
Yeah.
no. But like, you're talking like a sniper, like I'm thinking Andre Burakovsky, right?
Yeah.
Like his
I would say he qualifies.
number one skill, Cole Caulfield, their number one skill in their bag is goal scoring. Like that's what they do. David Pasternak. Pasternak does so many other things that it's hard to put him into a box like that. I have the same problem with Rantanen, where both of
Yeah.
those guys are just like
Rantanen's also
generational,
an
like
unbelievable
special players.
playmaker. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
we're like, well, but
Well,
that like those when I'm thinking about a sniper, I'm thinking about a guy that's like the top thing that he brings to the game, like far and away. With Ovechkin, there was plenty of power. There's some of these other guys we're talking about, they have other elements to it, but like Caulfield, he's on the ice because he's scoring goals for you. Andre Burakovsky, he's on the ice because that's what he's paid to do primarily. Pastrnak, Rantanen, great at everything. Just that's why they're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like great at everything.
I know we're usually a very heavy analytical podcast. We dive into the stats a lot. I struggle with that. With my number one thing, if I'm calling a guy a sniper, my thought is, how often do I think, wow, that was a pretty goal when this guy scores?
Yeah.
That's like my number one metric, which isn't a real metric, obviously. But when you look at a guy like Nathan MacKinnon, yes, Nathan MacKinnon scores some unbelievable goals, but I don't think there's a lot of goals that Nathan MacKinnon scores where you're like, wow, that was so pretty. He made that look so good. A lot of the time with MacKinnon, it's him just barreling through the ice or just by sheer power willing the puck into the net. It's not the perfectly played hockey puck.
Yeah, it's a different kind of goal scoring than what you see from like an Alex DeBrincat or Kyle Connor. Like guys that you're like, these guys are shooters first. And Nathan MacKinnon shoots a lot, but not a high percentage shooter. He's a high volume shooter who scores a lot. I mean, you throw. I mean, geez, the number of shots on goal that guy has. He had. We talked last year about how he wasn't shooting as often, how he just wasn't number one in the NHL.
Yeah,
in shots on goal.
Shot it only 400 times instead of 500 last year.
Yeah, he had one more shot on goal than David Pastrnak. Nice. But like,
yeah, I mean, yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like for Avs fans, like he can stay. He works in development now with the Avs, as we know. Milan. For me, that's one of the purest, snipers the Avs have ever had. Like you give him a puck, he doesn't need a runway to get it off. His release is so sneaky, and that's how you score 50, right? You know what I mean? This guy, that for me is a sniper. For the old era, the Mike Bossies of the world, for me, that was the ultimate sniper, where people decided, like, that's why he fell that 17, whatever he was in the first round back there, because they were saying one dimensional. Then people finally said, well, if putting the puck in the net is one dimension, I guess that's the toughest thing to do in the NHL. So we'll figure out the rest after. And he did. Ended up being a very, a smarter player than he was, and really raw at the start. But Mike Bossy, and then there was Brett Hall. You're talking about a sniper. Like that. That was like, what is that? That was lethal with the one knee down. And but in the NHL today, like for me, Austin Matthews is probably the best sniper. That shot is just special. And I can't say, and I can't lie and say I've seen Michael Misa play, but a lot of people say he's the best sniper of this past draft. You know what I mean? Again, you probably know more than I do, but I can't forget my little buddy. You know what I mean? The guy that's been on our show a couple times, Cole Eiserman. Very, very similar to Mike Bossy, right? Very one dimensional. I know, but the one dimension is to put the puck in the net. So we'll see. But I think you're talking about this generation of players. But as far as Avs one, I haven't seen anyone since Milan. You know what I mean? Like, and again, you're gonna say Miko, absolutely, but it's just so different. You know what I mean? Like, like it's just different. Joe, I played with Joe, and you would get on the ice, and you'd be out there, and you're just out there before practice, and whatever. And then all of a sudden, guys are starting to come in slowly, and you wouldn't know when Joe was out there. You know what I mean? Because that puck just whistles, and it goes at a different, like, you know what I mean? It just, and you're like, whoa, what was that? You know what I mean? It's just like, you're like, well, what is that? And it's special. You know what I mean? Because then you look around, you're like, oh, Joe's there. I see it.
Yeah.
It just comes off different. And again, I lived it last summer. I told you guys with Cole Eisner. That's why I say Cole Eisner. I lived there. I was on the ice. I'm like, oh my God, it reminded me. I had flashbacks of Joe Schott, and I'm like, what is that? It's just different. And goalies will tell you they're different, and they'll tell you Milan, like it's like you don't know where it's going. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of special. Being a sniper, I think for me, it's the greatest job in the NHL. You know what I mean? Because I wish it would be that easy to score goals. Because for them, it is easy.
Must be nice.
It's funny because like we're talking like somebody mentioned Draisaitl, right?
Yeah, I did want to talk about him.
Draisaitl, Pasternak, Rantanen. It almost feels reductive to call these guys snipers because they're all around games, all have such high levels to them. Where it's like if you call him a sniper, it almost feels like you're putting him into too small a box. Whereas Cole Caulfield, Alex DeBrincat, Kyle Connor, those guys are snipers. That's what they do. That's what they do. The rest of it, yeah.
We successfully made it halfway through a show without me mentioning Patrick Laine, but sniper for sure.
Sniper.
We do need to take our second break of the show as well, though. So let's make sure we got our sights scoped in on Empire today. Jump in with them. Go get with the flooring professionals. Whatever type of floor you need, whether it be hardwood, carpet, tile, or anything else, Empire today has you covered. They only carry the best quality products, so you know you're getting the good stuff, and you can do it all online. If you head over to empiretoday.com/DNVR, you can look at their stuff. You can get anything you want. You can measure out your space and see what the floor looks like in that space. Or if you really want to see it in person, you can schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. They'll come out with swatches of flooring so you can see it in your home with your furniture. And the coolest part is when you go to empiretoday.com/DNVR to schedule that thing, you can get a $350 discount on your new floors. Again, that's code DNVR for a $350 discount with Empire Today on your new floors. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DNVR for details. And of course, you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Once you've got your new floors from Empire Today, make sure you choose chill. Look, it's probably a long day of hard work to earn those floors, probably more than one, probably quite a few. So make sure you choose chill when you can relax after that day of work, whether it's out grilling in the backyard or just hanging out on your couch. Go get yourself some Coors Light. Of course, Coors Light available in pretty much every liquor store in the country or bar. Shout out the DNVR bar. Come check us out here in Denver. But you can also get your Coors Light delivered right to your front door, thanks to CoorsLight.com/DNVR and Instacart. So choose chill the easy way. You can be lazy like me on your couch, especially if you're watching the Rockies. Some days you need some Coors Light watching the Rockies. I'll put it to you that way. Jump in with them. Make the most of the times you choose to chill and choose Coors Light. Again, get it delivered right to your front door at CoorsLight.com/DNVR, thanks to Instacart. Of course, please drink responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. There are two more main archetypes I definitely want to touch on for forwards. Number 3 would be the Playmaker. This is where things start to blur, right? Because we already talked about a guy like Rantanen, great shooter, but also a great playmaker. Can do some of both. Obvious playmaker, you don't have to overcomplicate. It's the guy that sets up goals. It's the guy who creates plays, not necessarily the guy who finishes them. All-time history in the Avs, you think of a player like Alex Tanguay. You could probably pick a couple on today's lineup too, particularly Marty Necas. I don't know. How do you guys look at Playmaker? What do you see and think, oh, that guy's a playmaker?
It's usually a guy that makes me mad. It's usually a guy that I'm like, please, like Jonathan Duran. I loved him, but oh my gosh, please shoot more often. Please, when you're in the island, please shoot more often. And that's usually like Alex Tanguay had a really high shooting percentage because he only shot when
the net was wide open. Yeah.
Yeah, like he had a pretty good look at it. Those types of guys, it's funny because they usually do have really high shooting percentages because that's like their DNA. They want to pass it first. You look at
shots per 60 is catastrophically low. Yeah.
Yeah. You look at Jack Eichel last year. Like that guy just Nikita Kucherov every year. The way that he dominates the game and the way that he just sets up everybody around him, everybody's getting fat goal totals because of Nikita Kucherov's brilliance. Those types of guys that are pass first, pass second. Okay, fine, I guess I'll shoot, and then they still end up with 30-goal seasons, like Clayton Keller. Fine, I guess I'll shoot it, but like a wonderful passer, great vision, guys that really control the game with their ability to create seams and then make the play. That's what I'm thinking of when I talk about a playmaker.
Yeah, and for me, it's you talk about analytics. You know, that's been around for so long, as we know. It was just called different back then, but a guy that produces scoring chances for his line mates, for me, is that guy. You know what I mean? And that numbers don't lie, right? You know what I mean? If you're producing, and if you have a sniper with you, then the points will be there a lot more than other people. But that's what a good playmaker is. You know what I mean? And for me, the old days was um, Adam Oates. Was probably coming as the best one that I've seen. And nowadays I see some Avalanche best playmaker. I mean, I don't know. Um, you know, just hold on one second. Yeah, yeah. Um, sorry about that. Um, who's the best playmaker? You said Drouin for the Avalanche. In your
Probably
Well,
Nate
Nature's
just
now.
now. Yeah.
Nature's probably right. I think Nate falls in that category again, like you were talking about the goal scoring. It's pure power and pure, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and again, that doesn't mean that they're not good passers or good playmakers, or you know what I mean? But it's in there. I would say Nature's. I agree. I agree. I mean, that's probably the guy that Avalanche nowadays, modern day Avalanche is that guy.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of an old one. Again, you got to throw Forsberg in there back then. I mean, God, you're talking about finding guys like,
Yeah.
yikes. You know what I
Forsberg,
mean?
another one. Power forward,
Yeah,
playmaker.
I know
Transcends
it's
for sure.
everything.
Yeah, like what? I don't want to put him in
What
that
is
box.
he?
I'm just going to put him in the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame. We're good.
yeah. Very good. Wrap him up. See ya. I like
Yeah,
that.
anyone
No,
who makes the Hall of Fame isn't going to be archetyped.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The archetype is Hall of Famer.
Agree.
Okay. It's the thing with playmaker is like I think it's a little bit of a broader category than some of these
Yeah,
other ones. Like there's a very clear definition of what a sniper is. A power forward, maybe not a clear definition, but there are certain attributes you have to have. A playmaker can be a guy who drives the net hard and dishes to the outside. It can be a player who plays on the perimeter. It's obviously we're kind of putting defensemen in their own category, but our chat is popping off about all these defensemen that are playmaker types or breakout guys even.
Yeah.
Some of that becomes playmaking ability as well. So it's a pretty broad range of how a playmaker can operate, I guess, is how I should say it.
Yeah, and we haven't really gotten into defensemen in any of this. Like Cale Makar, you could definitely call a sniper. He had 30 goals last year. Like he's
the
going to be a
best goal
400
scoring
goal
defenseman
scorer.
in the league. Yeah.
Right. Like he's going to score 400 by the end of his career. Like guy rocks. You could call him a sniper, and I'm going to be like, man, true. It's just again a guy that bigger than that. You talk about playmaking. You look on the back end, a guy like Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Those guys are sublime playmakers. The way that they control the game with their vision and their passing is tremendous. I mean, it's game altering on a regular basis. Those guys are incredible.
Yeah, when you look at someone like Quinn Hughes's individual point production or what percentage of points his team scores that he's involved in, it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So definitely would fall into that category.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are kind of like I was saying earlier, the snipers. Like, I'd love to be a playmaker too. I'd love to just see the ice the way they see it, because it looks so easy. And And that's why I'm always going to say that Wayne Gretzky, like, you know, the greatest passer of all time in my book, but whatever. You know, he couldn't relate to guys like me. You know what I mean? Like, because you're having a conversation and he's talking to you like he saw that guy 30 feet behind him and threw 4 jerseys, and you know, thinking that's normal. And you're looking at him and you're like, what are you talking about?
It's
But he looks at you like, what do you mean? You didn't see that? And you're like, what? Like, you know what I mean? It's just it's a different
right.
conversation. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why guys like that sometimes have a hard time coaching, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
they're so,
exactly.
it's hard to relate. That's not a knock. It's actually, it's a different pedestal. Like, those guys are so good and so like, wow. You know what I mean? Like that, you know, I don't know. I couldn't
It's
see crap out there. As you guys know, I can't even see the chat, the screen. You know what I mean? Like, you think I could see like bodies flying everywhere, and no, I couldn't see nothing. Yeah. So I mean, that's a cool attribute. Almost, you know, I mean, to be able to say you're a passer, that's a cool attribute for me.
it's like old Peter Forsberg interviews are like that too. Like he would make an unbelievable play, and at the intermission they would interview him and be like, "What'd you see out there?" And he'd just be like, I just did it." And it's
Uh,
like, oh, okay, thanks, great.
like that pass you talked about the other day. Remember the pass you said to Blakey, like the airmail thing?
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
you know, whatever. I don't remember what year that was, but as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Watched it live from the press box. It almost hit me in the press box in the head and landed. I'm like, what is that? And then it's like the guys on the break, but you're like, what? You know,
Yep.
I tried that. It's just a fiasco. And then I get back to the bench and the coach says, go, you go sit there next to the backup goalie. And you're like, okay, that's fine. I won't try it again. But, you know.
All right. The last forward archetype I want to get into for sure, and we can have conversation about other ones. You can call it whatever you want, the two-way forward or the shutdown forward. Either way, either one's fine. My question is this even really an archetype? Sure, you can talk about a Sasha Barkov
Yeah.
or something like that, or is this just like, hey, he's a really good player and he's also really good at defense?
Yeah, I think the two-way forward is like, well, he's not bad on either end,
Sure.
but most of the time he's not exceptional either. And if he is, then he's one of those 5 guys. Like we get into straight up like unicorn territory. Patrice Bergeron,
Yeah,
Anze
yeah,
Kopitar, Sasha Barkov before his injury. Sean Couturier was kind of like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Uh,
5 guys does not an archetype make. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
like you're like these are just like the freaks of nature. Sebastian Aho, I don't want to Carolina, please don't come for me. Uh, like those types of guys, right? I guess I'll just throw Seth Jarvis in there too, since we're already there.
All right.
But like yeah, like those two-way guys are like weird. They're just kind of like freaks.
Sure.
No, it's lucky. It's lucky, right? I mean,
Yeah.
for me, you know, I mean, it's just like you're not exceptional. You're not the fastest guy. You're not the best shot. You know, you don't create the most. You just do just the art of the simple play, and you're
Yeah.
never into trouble. You're always when you hear Bednar staying above pucks and checking, and you know, always in the right position. You know what I mean? And for me, that's a 200-foot player. That's lucky. You know, and for the old days, you're you know, Yuri Littinen in Dallas, outstanding. Nicholas Sundstrom, former Ranger, and then San Jose Shark, unbelievable player, like unbelievable player. You know, so that those are the types of guys, and that you don't sacrifice offense because you just shut half your brain off or whatever and just playing defense, you know what I mean? No, but they're just so smart that they know how to combine both and never put themselves in trouble. And they don't have the qualities of a sniper, or they don't have the qualities of you know, the exceptional passer, you know, so they just play hockey the right way, and the art of the simple play, they've mastered it, and that's why they're playing. That's for me what a 200-foot player is. um yeah.
Is Is the archetype here actually like the glue guy or the Mr. Fix-It, as we've referred to Lecky a lot over the last couple of years?
The adult. You guys
the
talk
adult.
about
All right,
adult.
sure. We can have the adult.
That for me
archetype.
is that.
That's fine.
That's my definition. And then there's always guys like, and I'm gonna go throw an old name there. Avs. He was an Av, but he was towards the end of his career. But and guys like that, because you throw them in different boxes, but never got the merit of being such a smart like two-way player, because he was scoring 70 goals a year. But Jari Kurri, Jari Kurri, unbelievable. And that's why I always say Finns are so smart. They know how to play hockey, and but anyway, again, I'm talking through old names out there, but he was lucky, but he was scoring 70. You know what I mean? So it was like, wow, okay. But no one ever talked about it because he was so like, back then, whoever was winning the Selkies were Guy Carbonneau and guys like that. You know what I mean? He was just on the first All-Star team scoring 70, but this guy should have won a Selkie.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are a lot of guys that it's like, we're talking about the guys at like the tip top of this being just the freaks of nature and the unicorns, but there are like Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
He's a really good, smart defensive player, but he's only so good offensively. Nico Hischier is another one of these types of guys.
Yes.
Like he'd be a 1C on a lot of teams. Joel Eriksson Ek. Now they're just
I like
popping
him.
out now.
Yeah.
Mark Stone, like really, really good, smart players that play a good, solid defensive game, but are skilled enough to be top 6 players. The much more common is your like
the Parker Kellys of the world that are just defensive forwards. Really,
yeah. I was trying to find a bridge between like bum offensive player, guy that you're hoping gives you 20 a year, and like a 40-point player.
The first 2 years of Val Nichushkin in Colorado.
Yeah, those types of guys.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Do you think there are any other major archetypes for forwards in the NHL, or are we breaking it down into hyper specificity after those?
Yeah, I think from here, I mean, like, then we're just taking the entire bottom 6 and we're saying you're all grinders.
Yeah,
you're all sure. You play a checking role. Go check.
Yep.
And there are some guys out there that do, and then you have like I guess an in between guy that I could bring up, Pius Suter. Like a smart player who's not that good offensively, but he's effective and he's
I would say it usually falls into that highly intelligent third line-ish player.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. No, that's a good one.
The thing, so I know everyone has been talking about defensive archetypes in the chat. The thing is, and there are some, right? Like Lane Hudson, clearly an offensive defenseman, strictly. Defensive guys like Ryan Lindgren, clearly a defensive defenseman, strictly. But in the modern NHL, to be a quality defenseman, you really can't be that archetype locked, right? You have to do everything well in the modern NHL on defense.
You either have to do everything well, or you have to do what you do well at an elite level to hang out. Sure. Like you look at Sam Girard as a really good example of this. It's why he's so divisive. The haters only see the things that he does wrong, and they drives them crazy, right? And then the proponents of his game, the fans of his stands, they see what he does well, and they say, "Look, this has plenty of value."
True.
That's the guy that is like, you have to. He's such a great example for this. You have to do something at a really high level, and like Sam Girard's also kind of a freak because he doesn't really like fit in. He's not really an offensive defenseman. Like a career high of like 37 points. We've talked a lot this summer about, hey, he doesn't get a lot of power play time, so he misses some of those opportunities, and he's not on the ice as often with the tip top guys. But defensively, he does what he does well defensively, but he really struggles at the physical aspects of the game. Right in front of his own net, along the wall, problems.
The archetype is almost.
Where did he go?
it's not offensive and defensive. It's, are you a puck moving defenseman, or are you a guy who creates loose pucks? Like, when you have the puck, do you get it out effectively, or are you the defenseman that knocks pucks loose for that guy to get it out effectively?
For the like archetypes on defense, it's offensive defenseman, defensive defenseman, and then the all-stars. And then you would have to, because the guys that do both are the all-stars. Those are the guys that you pay. Those are the guys that play international tournaments. Devon Taves, right? Like,
yep.
Those types of guys that they're special. You don't see a lot of one-track defensemen going and playing for Team Canada or Team USA. Those are the guys that could do everything. But on an NHL team, you don't have that luxury. You've got to try and find some guys that fit a little bit of, you can find the Sam Girard, Josh Manson, right? Like the guy that's really good at one thing, and then you find the guy that kind of balances him out, and then just hope it works together, which, well,
sometimes it does. I wanted to ask you about this as a whole, because for fans, look, these archetypes are great. They're easy to place players into categories in ways that especially new fans can think of players and how they operate on the ice. But you've worked as a pro scout. You've worked in NHL front offices. Are these archetypes meaningful to actual NHL organizations? If you're a scout, does your NHL team say, hey, we need a power forward, go out and scout a power forward? Or is this more of just a fan way to categorize things?
No, it's not. It's not, because if you don't fall into anything, you're just one of those guys that's right there. And I was talking about the nest earlier. You'll never play. You got to fall into something. You can't just be, oh, okay, he's okay at checking. Oh, he's okay at passing. He's okay at, next thing you know, someone's going to be better than you at checking. Someone's going to be better than you at passing, because they're bringing that one thing. And then, or we talked about it a little bit earlier. We didn't really talk about it more after that, but taking a face off, how valuable that is. Like, and you'll be in the lineup and somebody else won't. Yeah, but this guy got 150 points in juniors. Yeah, great, awesome. I know, but they need a guy to take a face off, because that's what's making the, the puzzle, the piece of the pie. And some people why do you think Nico Sturm is always traded at the deadline or something like that? He really brings one element I'm not here to bash him. He's an NHL player, but he just brings that. Apparently, he's good at faceoffs. And that's what that is, right? I mean, that's it. And you gotta be a good guy. Everybody works hard. We all get that, but you gotta bring something. So you gotta fall into those categories, or you can't play. If you don't have a problem, if you don't have an identity, I don't believe you'll have longevity in this league if you don't have an identity. You gotta have an identity. And if you bring it and you know exactly what it is, the best example for the modern day Avalanche is Logan O'Connor. He came in, and he came in with that identity. I'm going to be a fast guy, a PK guy, a bottom of the lineup guy, and that's what I'm going to do. And tenacious, and I'm going to make myself into an everyday NHLer using that, not thinking that I can be a second liner, I can be this guy, or I can play, whatever. So at the end of the day, that is very important for me. I don't think it's just a fan thing. I think it's not even towards the teams looking at you, or managements or whatever it is. It's more you as a player. You have to understand to bring that. Or I'm convinced, if I was an agent right now and I'd be talking to players, you better have an identity or you'll never make it.
Yep, I think that's a good point. The last archetypes I want to talk about aren't really archetypes, but talking about goalies. 20, 30 years ago, you used to be able to archetype define as you had butterfly goalies and stand-up goalies. That doesn't exist anymore. Everyone uses the butterfly. It's just modern NHL goaltending. The archetype difference for me in goaltending is the only really one I can define, and a lot of this is maybe just defined on your size. You have athletic goalies and you have what I call mathematic goalies, which are goalies that are just very angular. They play their angles, they use their size, versus a guy like a Saros that often has to maybe make more highlight reel saves than a big goalie because he just takes up less of the net.
Yeah, when it's with goalies, I just take the Jay Fresh approach here. He's a goalie.
Fair. All goalies fall into the crazy category. Acceptable.
I think if you're talking about goalie, though, I think what's evolved a lot over the last few years is, where you didn't talk about that before because you were like, what are you talking about? He's a goalie. Like, is he a good skater? You know what I mean? And before you didn't care. Now you do. What does that mean? Like, is he good on his edges in the crease? Like, you know what I mean? If he's not good on his feet, it's a tough game to play. I don't care if you're small like Saros or big like Skinner. You know what I mean? You better be good on your feet. Now you got the Vasilevsky, which we all know he's struggled a little bit more, obviously, the last year compared to what he was. But you were talking about a big guy. That's why they call him the big cat, right? And then his feet were exceptional. So that was a deadly combo. You know what I mean? Where Saros he doesn't have the size, but he's probably the most technical guy there is right there. And because you have to rely on playing like on your angles, on your athleticism, and if you're big, sometimes like Skinner, you're probably not the best athlete. And again, you know what I'm saying. Athletic guy in the net. It's more like awkward when you go side to side. Like Hellebuck for me is awkward side to side. You know what I mean? He's more the guy that is big and he plays the percentages um, where Fleury was an athlete in the crease for me. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's probably the best example. You know what I mean? So I think knowing what you have like as a goalie, meaning do you have good feet? I think it's crucial now. You know what I mean? And then you go from there.
It's as with everything, it's tough, right? Because the best players are both categories, right? They are extremely athletic and extremely good on their angles, and that covers every category. And you get into most high end players are a mix of categories. You look at the Avalanche. You take Marty Necas. Yeah, he's probably the best playmaker on the team, but he also should be one of the best shooters on the team. So you don't call him a sniper, but he needs to finish for the Colorado Avalanche. You look at someone like a Gabe Landeskog. Yes, he's a great power forward on the offensive side, but he's also arguably one of their best defensive forwards. So he needs to be that two-way guy as well as a power forward. And unfortunately, this is where I think the archetype system breaks down, is because NHL roles just aren't that defined with the higher end level players. They cover too many bases for them to really fall into one singular archetype. So that's where I struggle with the archetype system. But for just a base overview of what a player does or what types of players there are in the NHL, I do think it is a pretty good system to jump off from at the very least.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not arguing. That's well said.
Yeah. It's something I wanted to do. I know sometimes we get a little too in the weeds for especially new fans with our analytics and trying to define these super micro stuff that comes to hockey. So I wanted to get something in that's a little bit broader and hopefully help some people out. That all we're trying to do is help people learn hockey out here.
Yeah, and then before it's too late, I just wanted to say, like, I'm a little disappointed. Downtown Jimmy Vesey signed in Geneva in Swiss League. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed with that. I wish he would have had another crack. I felt it would have been a good Av. So I'm disappointed with that. And then where's my guy Grizzly? Where's my guy Grizzly? He's still out there. He's still out there. Just saying.
It's the start of August, all right? We got another 3 weeks until PTO season really starts ramping up, and then we'll see.
True.
Hey, Tomas Tatar's a free agent.
Yeah, let's run that back. It worked so well the first time.
Yeah, he was looking for his identity there as an Av. He struggled. He didn't have an identity. No.
Hey, sometimes it's not a fit. Honestly, I know Tatar didn't play well here, but it's hard. Like, the Avs got an asset for him. It's hard to say they didn't do a decent job there.
It's perfect.
It worked out.
You got to patch it up. You know what I mean? And you're just patching it up. They'll have a couple patches coming up. I thought Jimmy could have been a good patch. That's why.
Yeah.
Put that. That's just me. I'm a little biased.
I agree. I'm hoping no Jimmy VC means we're gonna have to have like a Nathan Bastian or a Kevin Rooney or something, and it's like,
yeah, I know. I wish I could
bring
make
on the young guns. Prishchapov can make the team. It's fine. We are headed into overtime in just a second here. Make sure you join in and continue the conversation on the DNVR.com. You can jump in the chat and join us. I have one final question to ask you guys as we hit overtime here. And that question is, what is your favorite archetype of player? Mine has always been and will always be the playmaker. I'm a sucker for it. I know sometimes they're frustrating and they do frustrating stuff, but boy, when I see a pretty pass, it gets me going.
I like your answer. I'm going to give you mine. Like I said earlier, it's so hard to score in the National Hockey League. So I'm going to go sniper. You know what I mean? And then it's fun to get all the glory. And, I just wish I was a sniper. I wasn't.
I like defensive defensemen, big hulking blue liners that get back there and smoke people along the wall and make life living hell in front of the net. That's my jam. There's not a lot of them in the NHL, to be honest with you. Like, not a lot of those guys left.
Not.
So
Braden
it's hard.
McNabb.
Slim pickings. Oh, Braden McNabb. Always tough because of what he did to Joey Hishin really sucks, and we'll never know how that would have gone, but he's really, really good.
Yeah. I like Braden McNabb.
All right. I'm proud of you. No one said Hall of Famer as the archetype that they like the most. Good job.
I mean, yeah, come on. Oh, I like Peter Forsberg. Yeah, Pavel Bure really revs my engine. Oh!
Whatever archetype you like, or maybe there's one we missed, put it down in the comments of the video. We appreciate everybody hanging out for the live show. We are back tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure what we're doing tomorrow, but we will have a mailbag show later in the week. So start thinking of questions that you want to ask us, whether it be about the Avs, about ourselves, whatever it might be. Get those in your mind. You'll see a tweet most likely later in the week where you can put those in. We appreciate y'all. This has been the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.